Well, look, first of all, I want to thank you all for sticking around. I remember doing a marathon a long time ago, and I finished like dead last a long way back. And as I was running, and they were packing up the signs, and everyone had gone home, there's nothing more lonely. And I was feeling the same thing would happen with me. I'd come on, I'd be just a big empty hall. Anyway, I came unstuck about 2.5 years ago when I crashed a mountain bike in my line of work as a youth worker for the education department. At the time, I had a group of kids with me who were having some trouble at school, and we were trying to take them through an adventure-based learning program where they'd learn resilience and problem solving and how to handle adversity, etc. I didn't know it at the time, but I'd have to put that stuff into place in my life sooner than I thought. The short story is I crashed my bike and broke my back at the T12 level, so paralysed from the waist down. I'm a paraplegic now. And the funny thing about the crash, the only things I do remember, is that I heard the sound of my back break, but I had no pain at the time, suffered no pain. That stuff was to come later in hospital, and I spent about 4 or 5 months in there. Physical stuff, but emotional as well, and I suffered this thing called adjustment disorder. And basically adjustment disorder is your brain not coping, and my brain wasn't coping with the big change I went through from being a guy who used to like to run up the steps rather than walk to someone who couldn't get out of bed on his own. For me, it was a matter of my identity, and I had to ask myself this question. If my identity before the accident was someone who lived an active life, who was a singer-songwriter, I loved my swimming, my passions were swimming and paddling my ocean kayak, the question was, what for me now? Prior to my praying, myself and friends had done some amazing adventures along the length of the Great Barrier Reef from Rockhampton up to Lockhart River in trips that would last sometimes 2 weeks or more and cover distances of 500 kilometres. We would take all our own provisions and all our own food, and it was a big adventure, and it was great, and I wanted to get out there and do it again. So somewhere along my recovery line, someone had the wild idea that we'd get back in the boat again and try it again. And it was a big inspiration for me to do that. The plan that was hatched was to paddle from Forest Beach, or the mainland near Townsville, out to Great Palm Island, up to Orpheus Island, and into Hinchinbrook to finish at Lucinda. That's about 120 kilometres. So that was the plan. The first thing I had to do was learn how to swim. My swimming ability was completely gone. When I went into the pool, at the therapy pool at the PA hospital, I sunk like a stone. That wasn't a good feeling. And before the accident, I'd completed a 3K race in an event here in Cairns, so that was a big deal for me. So we decided to go down some invention lines and find a way to keep my legs straight and floating while swimming, and I'll show you a couple of things that we came up with. This is the first one. Fairly simple design, black for all occasions. It goes with anything, you know. Even if you've got no legs, it's cool. I wrapped it around my legs at knee level, and it had plastic rods that went down the side. I've lost them somewhere. We tried that, completely useless. The next thing, I went to town and invented myself a pair of pump-up pants. Well, you can laugh, and they did laugh at the Tobruk pool while I was down there pumping these things up, thinking that they'd work. But, you know, pump the legs up, the tubes are doubled. I've got racing tubes sewed down the side here, doubled up. I thought they'd be enough to keep my legs floating and straight, but they, again, too stretchy, didn't work. Back to the drawing board. But I'm glad I kept them. I'm going to pass them on to my daughter, who's here. Julia, they're yours, darling. You can wear them to the disco. Eventually I worked out that, I went back to the basic thing and worked out that if I modified a pool buoy, which is this thing here, I cut some holes in it for my knees, my legs could stay particularly straight, and it actually worked in lining me up through the water and keeping me in a straight line. So back to basics, keeping it simple, was a great thing for me to do. Now I'd achieved that goal of swimming some distances and getting back into the water. My next thing was learning how to get into a boat and stay there. So when you're sitting in a sea kayak without knees to brace with and without a 4-pack where a 6-pack used to be, you know, staying upright in a paddling position is not easy. And so we developed a seatbelt affair that kind of worked and did the trick. But I don't know if you've been upside down in a sea kayak out at sea trying to find the spray deck to pull it off to exits hairy enough without trying to undo a dodgy seatbelt as well. So we went through that phase, but I'm glad I found this seat somewhere along the line which fitted nicely into my cockpit and kept me in position without the seatbelt, which I'm sure convened every safety rule in the kayak handbook. If we were sprung, we'd be in trouble. But I did have to learn how to fall out of the boat and get back in again, because that's part of the deal. And so Ernest, my great buddy and paddling friend, experimented in my pool, but went out into the ocean. And I learned that if I came up onto the boat, flopped up there like a beach whale, rolled myself over 180 degrees and sat in the cockpit, that was a start, but I ended up sitting sideways with my legs crossed. Not bad if you're riding a horse, if you're royalty, you know, side saddle looks pretty cool. But not good for paddling. So then my next thing was to get my legs and feed them back into the cockpit onto a rubber mat I had there that was put there so I wouldn't get pressure sores on a long day's paddling. That was the last thing I needed in this trip, was a pressure sore, and I was pretty concerned about that. So I guess the next step for us was to get some paddling kilometres under our belt, which we did. This is something I used in the early days, but I got back into my double kayak and paddled that. But we paddled for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and built it up so that I was fairly certain that I could handle the rigours of a 6-hour paddle or more in my boat. So before I knew it, a year had passed and a year's planning came to fruition, and we were leaving the mainland heading for Palm Island, and a dream for me realised. I don't know, without the people I had around me, and I guess you can't do it without friends and family and supportive people around you, but the Great Barrier Reef and the gorgeous thing that we've got just off our doorstep here and the beauty of it and our surroundings was something that inspired me too, and that's my muse and inspiration for getting back out there. This is a shot of one of our many stays on the gorgeous islands that we land on that pepper the reef for the length of it, and we're the only ones there, and it's so gorgeous to be having an island to yourself. It's beautiful. It's hard work to get there, but it's worth it. So another plan has been hatched for next year, and the plan is to paddle from Cooktown via a couple of islands off the coast up to Lizard Island, something we've done before, but something I'd like to do again, and that involves me camping and being on a beach, which is our next project, is getting me mobile in sand. And I know you can take big bulky wheelchairs and stuff, but I need something I can take in the boat. So that's our next thinking is around how to get this thing in a kayak and how to get me on a beach and move around and do my bit in the camping area. And there's a guy that we know down in Sydney who's working for a thing called Foundation. He set up a Foundation Ultimate. Unlimited, I'm sorry. Foundation Unlimited. I knew I'd get that wrong. And this is a prototype of what my future might be. This isn't the real size, of course. It's just a miniature. I remember that scene and what that movie was, but I think of it. This is a kind of a Kevlar cocoon that's developed so that I can probably get from my car roof into the water and have a paddle and get back on the car roof all on my own. So it's developed to make me as independent as possible. And not just me, but people with double amputees and people with my level of disability. These are blow-up sponsons along the side here, so they'll be mechanically operated when you're in that cocoon that has 3 wheels on it. They act like skegs in the water when you're paddling. These things will inflate around you and off you go. That's the dream. And we're working on it, along with our friend down in Sydney. So I guess that's my story. And I would like to leave you now with a take on an age-old proverb that I've added to. I hope the person who made it up forgives me, but if necessity is the mother of invention, then surely adversity could be the father. Maybe a blood test. And now I'd like to play you a song, if I may, that I wrote about one of our trips, or it's from one of our trips up north, but it kind of sums up our experiences, and I hope you enjoy it. And again, thank you for staying. I appreciate it. It's called Gone for Sure. I know this place and sea. Nobody's been there but me. It's just a spot on a map that I've got to get there. You need a wind from the south. You need a vessel that's true. You need a fire with a friend to tell you your name, and I'll be gone, and I'll be gone, and I'll be gone tomorrow for sure. I know this place and sea, where time's an illusion, night follows day, spectacular kind of way to get there. You need a wind from the south. You need a vessel that's true. You need a fire with a friend to tell you your name, and I'll be gone, and I'll be gone, and I'll be gone. It's in my head that I need it under my feet. It's in my head that I need it. To get there, you need a wind from the south. You need a vessel that's true. You need a fire with a friend to tell you your name, and I'll be gone, and I'll be gone, and I'll be gone tomorrow for sure. Tomorrow for sure. I'll be gone tomorrow for sure. I'll be gone tomorrow for sure. Thank you.